I wanted your take on that, though, because, again, you're locked into GMs and you're always looking into their mindset and trying to get an advantage. What are your thoughts on, having that $5 million, $6 million and grabbing players like that and trying to make it work out on your roster?
It's incredibly valuable if you do it right. And we've seen some teams hit, we've seen some teams miss. Now, you mentioned a lot of guys that hit. I was looking today at the starting pitching market. $8 million range, right? Okay. Garrett Richards, he got 10. A little bit more expensive. Martin Perez, 5. You mentioned the Red Sox position players. Those are two great signs as of right now. And then you look at Quintana, Paxton, Happ, all in that $8 million range. They have not worked out to the same degree. So is it scouting? Is it luck? Is it some combination of both? Probably, but you're right, Brian. The teams that can hit on these players, they are in an incredibly great position. The Mets, for instance, with Pilar and VR. Right now, they made a very conscious effort to build depth with players like this, and to this point, it's worked out well for them.
No, I went and actually saw the Mets last week. Those guys can run and field, right? That's a useful thing. Like, we don't think about that. I'm just wanting your quick take on Farhan Zaidi and the Giants. You can hit on one, right? But you hit on two, I'm like, all right, hold on. What are you looking at? How did you see both those guys working out,
No, and really, you can add Gossman to that list. He was a qualifying offer he accepted, and he is a guy that is fitting right into that great Giants rotation as well. They must have something going with the pitching right now. It's pretty obvious. Now, Jake McGee has struggled a little bit as the closer. I get that. But, man, it's reminding me a little bit of Cleveland. Guys go there and suddenly, now, Cleveland does it with young players that they develop on their own, but you're seeing something now that's pretty special. And I don't know what the system is. No one seems to know. It's Farhan's secret sauce, but he's applying it liberally and well.
I want to show you guys, Dave, take a look at this, what Mike Rizzo of the Nationals did. And actually, Harold Reynolds was talking about this like 3 years ago, saying, hey, what's wrong with Howie Kendrick? Have you seen what Kendrick's doing? Like, I know he's not a star anymore. Now he's 31, 32, 30, whatever he ended up being, now 35. But the Nationals seem to go after this player. Pick up Brian Dozier when he was cut loose. But they did in the free agent market get Kendrick, get Kurt Suzuki, get Asdrubal Cabrera. Not an awful lot of money. But, man, we saw it in action in the playoffs. Those are useful players.
They're incredibly useful. And I think every year it seems like there's more and more of these guys. And the one guy I'll throw in there that's really current is Adam Eaton with the Chicago White Sox. He's at $7 million a year. But that player that's 30 to 34 where the game doesn't seem like they really respect that player or value them.
Exactly.
To me, you can't win unless you have 25-man roster, right? So, yes, I have my young stars. Maybe I have my superstars. But I've got to fill in these other gaps, and there's so many quality players that maybe you're not going to give them a 3 to 4 year deal, but for 1 or 2 years in Adam Eaton, this is the guy that dropped the bunt the other day, BK, helped them win that game.
Right in my face with the bunt,
He's a kind of
useful guy. Guy can run, can field.
Considered a role player, right? But a role player on a winning team. He's got a winning pedigree, and to add him to your roster in your clubhouse, he's not going to hurt you at all.
That's why, Steve, I even looked up Matt Duffy because I was watching some Cubs baseball like over the last week, and I was like, hey, Matt Duffy did that. Hey, he did this. Like small things and hitting. You got to hit a little bit, but that you see, like that's a good baseball player.
Yeah, and it's funny because when they did sign him, I'm like, oh, they're the Cubs just being cheap. What is he going to do? And he's actually been a really nice surprise. And like you said, he plays multiple positions. He doesn't cost a lot of money, and he's hitting.
It pops up. I think that the test, Ken, is when I feel that, hey, Hunter Renfroe is available. Like he got cut loose by the Rays. Like, why would he be out there? Adam Duvall hasn't been signed. The Braves didn't bring him back. Why wouldn't you go after him? And a lot of times it is GMs have budgets, right? And they will max out on a budget. They go back to ownership, and at a certain point, it's no. And at a certain point, it's almost like they will fight tooth and nail for that, difference between $2.55 million and $3 million. And yet, on the high end, on $300 million deal, Lindor wants $30 million more. Okay, let's do that. You know what I'm saying? There's like a loss of perspective here.
The owner will give permission for that deal because of all that it entails for the franchise, and then he'll nickel and dime at the other end. So that's where it comes in. By the way, I thought of one more.
Yeah.
Carlos Rodon.
Yeah.
Non-tendered.
Well, he was their own guy. The only reason I didn't put him here because he was their own guy.
But he was a free agent.
Right, true.
$3 million.
Right.
And again, that's the beauty of the sport, that as much as we try to make it predictable and try to forecast what's going to happen, as much as the teams try to do that, and they have models, they have all kinds of things that they do, we can't do that. you can't predict this sport very well.
Yeah. But you at least you can look at if you just looked at Howie Kendrick on Baseball Reference, you would say,
yes,
oh, that guy can still
player.
play. If you just look at Hunter Renfroe, if you watched the playoffs last year, you'd say, well, that guy can field. If he can run into 20 home runs, great. But we know he can. Adam Duvall can field.
Yes.
Again, there's a bunch of guys hit for power and field. Wait a second, those things
And they're
don't
not
normally
perfect.
go together.
They have flaws,
Right.
and that's why they're available at lower prices. But the teams that can identify the strengths that fit into their club, as the Red Sox seemingly have done with quite a number of their guys, that's pretty good.